Hey fellow tankers, Mobius here with another World of Tanks console video, and today we're taking a look at some of the major changes coming with Update 3.5 War of Nations for both the Xbox and the PlayStation 4 version of World of Tanks. Now, I'm just going to go over some of the key points of Update 3.5, which will probably be dropping on January 31st, on the Tuesday there. Now that's just my guess, so if it doesn't actually show up on Tuesday, January 31st, please refrain from sending me death threats. I would appreciate that. So, Update 3.5 War of Nations will have you rethinking tanks. Explore the latest and revamped maps, get acquainted with new physics mechanics, and prepare for a host of changes. So, one of the major key changes that's going on with Update 3.5 is a change to these vehicle physics. This update transforms how vehicles traverse the battlefield. Now you can skid, slide, and flip, plus perform maneuvers previously impossible in World of Tanks. Go up steeper inclines, over walls, and even other tanks. Explore entire new areas of maps you thought were previously unreachable. All new vehicles now move and interact with the environment in a more realistic manner. That's because suspensions now fully react to the terrain. Be careful. With enough speed, you can flip your own vehicle. To help with unintentional flips, we've added a self-righting mechanic that will automatically right your vehicle after 10 seconds. Down here they have a screenshot of what that looks like. You can see right here in the middle a bit of a timer on a tank that has half flipped itself onto its side. We've also added a handbrake option that allows you to perform new maneuvers. Use the handbrake to halt one or both tracks while on the move, allowing for spectacular turns, sharp braking, and U-turns. Sharp turns on tank destroyers and artillery is not enabled. You can still use the handbrake to lock both tracks for quick stops. We also have a couple new map variants and updates to some older maps. There are new variants of South Coast, the Rain variant, and a new War variant to El Haluf. The battle expands to familiar territories with a rainy South Coast and a battered El Haluf with strategically placed bunkers and more. There are also updates to maps like Siegfried Line War, Mines, and Province. The older HD art on these maps has been replaced. The other major change that's happening with Update 3.5 is the updated tactical minimap. Speaking of maps, we've updated the minimap, overview, square, and circle minimap, to include useful vehicle information. With Update 3.5, you'll be able to see your vehicle's gun direction, view range, detectability range, as well as a 50-meter auto-detect circle. View range, detectability range, and gun direction lines are dynamic and will reflect the current values after all factors are calculated, i.e. effects of equipment, consumables, ammunition, camouflage, and active crew skills or perks. In this screenshot here from the news page, they have a very good example of what the new minimap will look like. So this would basically be what your map looks like if no enemies are detected when you open up the minimap with the back button. You have a large dotted circle outside your tank. You have a much smaller dotted circle outside your tank. You have this blue cone facing in the general direction where the camera is pointing. And you have a line to indicate the direction your gun is pointing. So number one is the 50-meter auto-detect circle. Enemies within the 50-meter circle will be automatically detected. That's the small dotted line around the icon indicating where your tank is located. Number two is the large detectability range circle. That's the very large dotted circle that is outside your tank and follows your tank around on the map. Calculated based on your vehicle's visibility. Enemies within the circle have a chance of detecting you. Environmental effects such as bushes and trees are not reflected in the circle, as they are directional bonuses and not overall. So this circle, the bigger it is, the easier it is for an enemy tank to spot you. The smaller it is, the harder it is for an enemy tank to spot you. That's basically what that means. And this circle will change in size depending on your tank's, what it says, based on your vehicle's visibility. So basically what that means is it's based on your vehicle's camo rating. Number three is the gun direction line, which is this white line sticking out here. Follows your vehicle's gun, displaying its pointed direction and the range of your loaded ammunition. So the white line terminates right at the farthest point where your ammunition is effective. And number four, the blue cone, is the view range cone. Displays the vehicle's view angle and range, which is controlled by the camera, so it works independently from the gun direction line. The end of the cone is your maximum view range. So the edge of this cone here basically displays your maximum view range. Now note that your maximum view range applies to It applies to your tank in a 360-degree radius. It's not just the direction your camera is pointing, but the direction your camera is pointing will give you, this cone will give you a good idea of how close you have to get to an enemy vehicle in order to spot them. Note the view cone adjusts if you switch from normal view to sniper view, and expands if you have a binocular telescope mounted. So that's a really handy addition. You can now see at a glance on the minimap what your tank's view range is, your tank's maximum view range in order to detect enemies, and how close an enemy would have to get within this dotted circle in order to actually be able to detect you. Now note that certain enemy tanks will have to get closer rather than the very edges of this dotted circle, depending on their own tank's view range, which is calculated against your tank's camo rating. So a tank with really good view range will probably spot you on the very edge of your detecting circle here. But a tank with crappy view range will probably have to come in quite a bit closer. There's also a tank gallery view that you can use to look at new tanks that you have in your garage. Whether it be that brand new tank you just unlocked or another mark of excellence, sometimes you want to flaunt what you got. Press and hold left trigger or L2 in the garage to enable the tank gallery. You'll get a clean look at your war machine without the garage heads-up display for top-notch screenshots. Tank gallery view also works in the armor and component viewer. So that's a pretty interesting addition for people who like to take a look at their tank without all the extra clutter on the screen that is normally there in the garage. Now, if you would like to go over these update notes on your own, I highly recommend it. I will put a link in the description below. Be sure to click on it and carefully peruse them on your own time, going through in greater detail all of these update notes for each console as well as the console that you yourself play on. There were also a lot of changes to the vehicles in the game. In particular, the most notable ones that I felt, we had buffs to several of the Chinese tanks in terms of their gun depression was improved. So the premium T-34-3 and the T-34-3 Black Tier 8 medium tank had its gun depression increased from 3 degrees to 5 degrees. The Tier 10 medium tank, the 121, had its terrain resistances buffed just a tiny bit. And its maximum gun depression was also buffed by 0.5 degrees. So it's a little easier to line up those shots in both of those medium tanks. Also, the 113 Tier 10 heavy tank again had some slight terrain resistance buffs, just very slightly on hard and medium terrains. The shot dispersion when moving and during vehicle rotation had a slight increase. So now your reticule will remain tighter as you move the tank. And it also got a 1 degree gun depression buff, increasing the gun depression from 4 degrees to 5 degrees. So again, easier to line up those shots when trying to shoot at something just a little bit over a ridgeline. Other major changes, there were a lot of higher tier tank destroyers, namely tiers 8, 9, and 10, that got hit with the Nerf bat, having their view ranges reduced. Most of them were in the German and US tech trees as well. For example, the Borsig got hit pretty hard. If I could find it here. Right there. The Borsig got hit pretty hard, getting its view range reduced from 400 to 360 meters. Similar story with the Jagdpanzer E100, reducing the view range from 400 to 390 meters. Pardon me for the error. And there's several other tank destroyers in these higher tiers that got more view range nerfs. The T110E4 in the US tech tree, the Waffenträger off E100 from 420 to 380. This is just making it so that tank destroyers have to rely more on their team to spot targets for them, which puts them again in the more support role, so that tank destroyers simply can't park up somewhere, spot their own targets, and blast somebody while remaining unspotted for about half their health, or a very large portion of their health. There was also a buff to the US Tier 10 medium tank, the M48 Patton, basically an overall kind of gun performance buff. The reload time was reduced, so it shoots faster now. The aim time was increased by 0.1, and the shot dispersion during turret rotation was reduced quite a bit. So overall, the reticule will remain a little bit tighter, it'll aim in a little bit quicker, and it will shoot a little bit faster as well. So again, I highly recommend you go through these patch notes on your own time. Take a look at all the different changes. There were also there was also a universal change to the 8.8 centimeter L56 German gun on a lot of middle and higher tier tanks, basically making the penetration value of any tank using that gun the same. I believe it's 145 millimeters now, making it a universal constant rather than different tanks using the same gun having different penetration values for weird reasons. But essentially, that's a quick sneak peek at update 3.5. I know I'm actually really excited to see this update roll out. There's also some changes in a whole huge list of maps that were made, simple things like moving spawns and moving flag locations to try and balance them out a little bit better. I know, for example, Overlord Assault was a huge complaint. It was deemed extremely unfair, and I don't doubt that for a second. Somewhere in the patch notes they listed that they adjusted that to try and make it more fair for the attacking team. So hopefully this gives you guys a good review of what update 3.5 is going to look like. Wargaming has been saying for quite some time now it's going to drop at the end of the month, so that's why I predict it'll be out on Tuesday, January 31st. So be ready to download it sometime during that week, I would say. And let me know in the comments below which particular part of update 3.5 you're looking forward to. Is it the additions? Is it the additional information in the minimap, or is it the enhanced physics and the ability to flip tanks, or some of the changes that happened to some of the tanks in either the lower or the higher tiers? Let me know in the comments below. In the meantime, this has been Mobius Y. Thanks very much for watching. I hope you found this informational and helpful, and I hope to see you on the battlefield or in my next video. As always, happy tanking.